On November 11th of 1946, an obituary appeared in newspapers throughout Canada, Maine, and most of the United States. It was an amazing tribute to a Maine woman, one the whole world had come to know. It was also a fitting homage to one of the most famous Maine sportsmen in United States history, and it also served as an honorarium to the first ever registered Maine guide. Cornelia Thurza Crosby was born in the Franklin County town of Phillips, Maine, on November 10th of 1854. Her parents were Lemuel and Thurza Crosby. Cornelia was schooled locally and at home. Then she attended St. Catherine's, an Episcopal finishing school, in Augusta, Maine. She was a gangly young woman who stood 6 feet tall. She was lanky in appearance and was frail of health. As an adult, she worked as a housekeeper in hotels, as a bank teller, and as a telegrapher. As a way to improve her health, Cornelia began exploring the outdoors of Maine, and soon she began to fish. She soon became quite good at fishing, using primarily bamboo rods and fly casting equipment. Cornelia had become so well adept at fly fishing that many of the other sportsmen gave her the nickname of Flyrod. Cornelia also developed a distinct love of the outdoors, such as camping, hiking, canoeing, hunting, and all forms of outdoor sports activities, which became her ultimate passion. And she endeavored to learn everything she could about being in nature, and especially the outdoors of Maine. Soon, she began earning a living by taking visiting hunters and fishermen into the Maine wilds. The oddity of a woman being their guide was enough to keep interested parties lined up for trip after trip. Flyrod was also a woman who was ahead of her time, as she was one of the first promoters of the catch and release philosophy. And she was the last person to legally hunt and shoot a caribou buck in the state of Maine. Cornelia became so well known and popular that she was eventually hired by the Maine Central Railroad to help spur Maine tourism and promote sportsmanship in the Pine Tree State. By the spring of 1897, a 43-year-old Cornelia Crosby had earned herself a name as a true sports legend in the state of Maine. On March 19th of that year, Cornelia received a telegram from one of the commissioners of Maine's inland fisheries and game. The telegram informed Cornelia that a new law requiring Maine guides to be registered and licensed with the state of Maine had passed the legislature. Out of a total of 1,316 Maine guide applications that were accepted, Cornelia was honored as the first officially registered Maine guide in the history of the Pine Tree State. Now, Cornelia was asked to use her popularity and knowledge of the Maine woods and sporting opportunities to help promote tourism in the state of Maine. Cornelia then began writing articles under the title of Flyrod's Notebook for publication in magazines and newspapers. These articles were written about her exploits and experiences in the northern Maine woods, and Flyrod's Notebook was soon syndicated in newspapers for publication all over the United States. Cornelia also began traveling to off-season exhibits, always promoting Maine as the nation's sporting playground. Soon, sports tourism in Maine abounded with paying, year-round sportsmen who sought an opportunity to live the experiences that they had read about in her stories. On one of her trips, promoting Maine, Flyrod hosted an exhibit event at New York's Madison Square Garden while wearing a green, knee-length doeskin dress, which caught the attention of all who saw her. In the eyes of visitors to the exhibit, Cornelia had just made hunting and fishing in the Maine woods a very sexy sport. By the early 20th century, Cornelia had become the undisputed queen of Maine hunting, fishing, camping, snowshoeing, canoeing, hiking, bird watching, foliage, and everything having to do with Maine's outdoors. Her name was known by sportsmen all over the United States, and many who traveled to Maine from other countries also knew the name Cornelia Flyrod Crosby. Cornelia had also done a great deal to promote tourism in Maine, encourage conservation of Maine's natural resources, and to teach outdoor living to men and women visitors alike. On November 11th of 1946, one day after her 92nd birthday, Cornelia Flyrod Crosby, perhaps the most popular and widely known woman of Maine, died at St. Mary's Hospital in Lewiston. Her body was carried home to Franklin County and laid to rest at the village cemetery in the town of Strong. In a time when women were only just beginning to find their voices in America, Cornelia Flyrod Crosby heartily blazed a trail through the Maine wilderness, and she pioneered a new place for women in the all-male-dominated world of outdoor sporting. Today, Cornelia Flyrod Crosby is celebrated as an iconic Maine trailblazer, sportswoman, conservationist, and one of the most legendary of our stories from Maine.